Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Scarlett. Welcome to my Nashville home. Come on in, let me show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Scarlett James. I'm the principal designer with the Mix Interiors. Welcome to my Nashville home. I'm thrilled you're here. In 2006, when I just had my first child, we lived in another neighborhood that was nearby. And we discovered this little hidden street on a detour, I believe, and I have just loved the street ever since. In fact, my husband said, if that house, speaking of ours, ever goes on the market, I definitely want to look at it. Probably 6 months to a year later, as luck would have it, there's a for sale sign in the yard. So our house was not on the market, but we came and toured this house anyway and fell in love and really could see ourselves raising our family here. So sold our house and moved in 2 months later. My home style is collected and ever changing, not really changing in style, but changing in moving things around. I guess maybe when I've lived in one place for 17 years, 18 years, that I like a constant, or not constant, but I like a frequent mix-up of things. So really try to create a furniture wardrobe that can live in different ways. And I move them around and use them in different ways quite often. And the needs of the house change as your family ages as well. So what served me, in the family room when I had younger children, well, now that space works as our studio office. So the needs of the room have changed, so the furnishings have adapted to fit whatever it is we're using the space for. Welcome to our living room. This room is in the very front of the house, right off of the foyer. So I wanted it to feel somewhat more formal. So I kept everything in here with a tight back and not big cushions, because I have a little dog who loves to squish the cushions. So I wanted this room to feel always somewhat put together. Since we work out of the house, a lot of clients will stop by on occasion. So I wanted this to just not feel like my kid took a nap, even though he may have. Another thing about this space, since it is very traditional with the dental molding and the fluted cased openings, I wanted to introduce some modern elements to create a little tension. I can totally love the granny chic thing, and I tend to be drawn to really traditional styles, but to me, the most interesting is when we have something super traditional and classic mixed with something that has a more modern edge or a harder line. I think that interest is really great. So while I have this is my husband's grandmother's TV cabinet from the 50s, where they used to have the tube TV, built into the cabinet. We had this piece, and as soon as we moved in, it landed here, and honestly, it hasn't moved. And that is one of the few things in this house that has stayed constant. Since we had that piece, and we also had this, I think it's early 1900s, it's a buffet, and it actually has the dish thing that came on top, but I chose not to use it right now. Since I had these two traditional things, I wanted to add some modern art. And this artist, Kristen Blakeney, who is out of Birmingham, I bought this several years ago because I just loved the movement of it, and the scale was awesome. And I loved just the neutral palette, because you can mix it in, as you can see, and as we did in here, with so many colors, and it's just lovely. Also wanted to point out, so I've had this piece of art in here in various different places. When I arranged the room this way, I felt like the art spoke a little bit better to me in this room if it was upside down. So as you can see, Kristen's signature is upside down. I hope you don't mind, Kristen. But don't be afraid to mix things up. If you like something a different way, it can be your own interpretation, not just as what the artist saw. Another modern element is this glass and lucite coffee table. I didn't want it to feel too heavy having the antique, so that is a great trick to keep things feeling really open. This screen is probably the best estate sale purchase I've made in my life, honestly. I love her so much. Ray Booth designed a house. He's a designer that I really admire his work. And they had a huge estate sale, and the screen was there. So with the beautiful like fabric hinges and such, I was like, this screen is way too big for my house. It's not going to fit anywhere, but I have to have it because a client may need it. Well, it fits in one room, and it has not left the spot either because I love it so much. We found these Japanese block prints when we were at High Point a few years ago, and I love just like I love flowers because I'm a gardener and I like to play in the garden. So, but I wanted it to not be so feminine, so I matted them with like a chocolate colored grass cloth to just give them a little more weight and grounding, and I love it. I think it feels good. So I'll show you our dining room, which is really part of the gigantic hallway that's leading you back to the kitchen. This was part of the renovation that we did. Originally, for whatever reason, the cased opening was similar to this one that's in the living room, and it was not centered on the bay, which, like, architecturally speaking, like, I just couldn't deal with. It just threw off everything. So when we did the kitchen renovation, we were able to create this big thickened walkway that lines up with the bay, and it enabled us to get an appliance tower in the kitchen and a pantry space, which has been so valuable. We happened to order too much paper on a project and was left with this beautiful Sally King Benedict. She's an artist that I followed her work for a long time, and I'm such a fan. They did a collaboration with Studio 4, I think, in New York. And anyway, what was an accident definitely worked out to be my favor with this paper. I'd look at this as like an art layer and not an accent wall. So with the art layers, having the Sally King Benedict grass cloth as the back layer, my artist friend Jennifer Gibbs, she is in Nashville. I actually have 2 of her pieces. I love her work. She did this painting for us, and it really reminds me of Radnor Lake, the little natural area that we live by. It's always like moody lake scene, and I just love the colors. Makes me want to get outside. I love this light. It is Julie O'Neill, I believe. She is a designer out of New Orleans, and I love her line with visual comfort. Actually, the lamp in the entry is also from your collection, so I really do love your stuff. But I think the plaster finish is so pretty, and again, it has like that floral kind of note to it. I have hit my head when doing puzzles, but it's light and it's fine. I did not do a traditional buffet in this room. Again, I was trying to like think of ways to like not be as traditional. So I love this like very simple plinth that we had a trim carpenter make for me. And then I can fill whatever is from fresh and good looking in the yard. So this is from my quince bush, which I think is just has a beautiful architectural shape. When choosing dining chairs for these, I was with my friend Julie, and we were in market in Atlanta, and I fell in love with these dining chairs from Ole Studio, and she absolutely peer pressured me into buying them. But I'm so glad that I did. They're shockingly comfortable for being metal, but they're well loved and have held up awesome. These little host chairs are the Jennifer chair from Hickory Chair. I didn't want to do a tall back here because I wanted to be able to see outside, and for the connection that this is to the kitchen. I just didn't want to block it off. I wanted it to be really flowy. I chose not to do a rug in here. It was tricky with how this like thickened walkway is, but really my family, we're messy, and so it works great for us not having a rug under the dining table because I can just sweep or vacuum. You know, the house was so well maintained. It was built in 1980, which was a very solid time for construction. So you could tell it the second you walked in. We kept all of the original millwork and moldings that came, with the house. You could tell that it was so well maintained and just taken care of that we really didn't initially change anything. Although the kitchen we would eventually change because it was original and those things eventually die. But the double oven that came with this house lived for 42 years, which is quite impressive. But when that finally went is when we decided to do a pretty substantial renovation on the downstairs of the house. So we couldn't change the location of the kitchen in the house. It is like truly the heartbeat of the home because it is directly in the center of the house. Another design challenge we had is not only is it in the center of the house, it's also the connecting hallway from like my husband's office to our family room / design studio. So when designing it, I had to accommodate in the design like the flow of this being a hallway. The range was originally in this location. I decided to keep it here because I didn't want the range having to open up, into a hallway. Since the range was here, we could not center it on the island, which made me not want to do the traditional pendants over the island that you see, and it also made me not want to do a bulky hood. We only have 8-foot ceilings, and I felt like I don't want an appliance really to be the focal point. I wanted this to feel like a working kitchen, because it is. And I also wanted to feel like just another room in the house and not quite as kitchen-y, I guess. So by not doing the hood, I did a downdraft. So when we fry bacon, which we do, and steak and all other yummy things, I can just hit a button and the vent fan comes up and works great. And having the dishes exposed is so practical for myself and my family. Makes people putting away dishes, helping you unload the dishwasher, they can see exactly where they go. And I also want people just to feel so welcome here, so when they don't have to ask me, where's your cup? Where is a plate? Like, it's right there. You can help yourself to it and grab. I like that. Because of the size of the kitchen, I didn't want a very clunky island. I chose to do a work table that has open shelving with like all of my like pots and pans, bulkier things, and still have seating on the side, but I think it definitely makes it feel more like furniture piece. It is furniture, as my furniture friend made it for me. But it's functioned so well, just having everything open and easy to grab. I'm such a lover of art and collector of art, so I wanted this to be like, a rotating gallery. Like if I get a new piece, then I have to keep it in the kitchen for a while, until it finds a permanent home. My son recently graduated from high school, so his portrait had to be up for a minute while we were celebrating him. I chose to do inset cabinets and appliances because we were so limited on this walkway space, which I think it also just makes it look way more built in and custom and pretty. I did an appliance tower here, which is so 98% of the time it is open for business with our little toaster oven and microwave situation. But when I have company come, we can tuck it away, which is lovely. I'm a collector of dishes, so I definitely wanted a spot to be able to store all of my dishes and just have easy access of them. So I created this little dish pantry that's able to like store all of those pretty things and my vases, because I'm always cutting things from the yard, even if it's an herb, even if it's like a piece of basil in a vase, just makes the table feel like welcoming and thoughtful. The beauty of having a house with 8-foot ceilings is that you can tile all the way to the ceiling because there's not that much surface area to cover. Since I did the open shelving and didn't do like traditional upper cabinets, there was really no end point to where to stop like the tile backsplash. So go big or go home and just tile the whole thing. I love it so much. I love pattern in general. So this gave us a tiny little repeat, which also really acts as a camouflage. So imperfections in old houses, like the way things settle and such, if they're mixed into a pattern, you see them less. So we kind of hid our wonky case openings that have settled with the small repeat pattern tile. And it's so functional because, as you know, things spill in kitchens and life is messy. So I don't sweat it. We have tile, just wipe it up. I chose to do marble countertops. I have so many clients that are scared to death of marble. Absolutely do not be scared of it. Like, embrace the ring. It is made to wear in patina, and there's nothing that I don't do on these countertops just because they're marble. I say live with it. And the same goes for the wood. You can see water spots and marks, but I think it just adds like life and beauty. A lot of times, and we do so much new construction for my work as a designer, and I'm always trying to think of ways to add age and patina so people feel more comfortable in the space. I feel like when everything is so shiny brand new, people are not as comfortable because they don't want to be the ones to mess it up. But if it's already kind of messed up, it takes the edge off of it a little bit. Since I didn't want to do like the 2 traditional pendants, and I really did not want to do a bunch of cans, I was inspired by a project that Stephen Gambrell did where he used like a series of pendants. And I found these from Hudson Valley. It's a gorgeous like pewter finish. It almost reminds me of like an old hotel silver. So I laid it out to where the pendants are in lieu of the cans. And I think it adds so much interest without feeling too bulky. I will say, if you do a situation like this, you have to be really picky about what bulb you put in there. So I found these porcelain bulbs, I believe Tala makes them, that are beautiful, and they soften the light so it's not too severe, and it's nice and warm at 2700, which you have to have. When redoing this floor, we could not really change the location of the laundry room. One of the things that like drove me nuts is that you could see the laundry room like from our front door. So a solution that myself and Andrew King, my architect buddy, came up with is to do a jib door for the laundry and run the chair rail that was all through the dining area through the space, so it doesn't really feel like a laundry door. And then Waterworks had the most gorgeous pull that I was able to use on the laundry door and on the pantry doors. We continued that same kind of just built in, so it didn't feel too bulky through the space with casing and such. So you can see it from the front door, but it's pretty. And then it takes you into a little secret space that is tiny but mighty. The color, I love this color. It's Sherwin-Williams Rosemary, and because this is like a little pocket room, I wanted to just like drench it in this color. And then I have this like awesome blue wallpaper that I think I actually purchased this for myself. It wasn't left over. But I wanted to show people that you don't have to have like blue or green in the wallpaper in order to use green on the cabinets. They are 2 neutrals, the color of the sky and grass. Therefore, they go together, in my opinion. And welcome to the family room studio space. So this room is one of the ones that has evolved the most over the past 18 years we've lived in this home. So when the children were younger, this was their playroom, which was so wonderful, right off the kitchen, and just like our family movie hangout space. So it's a nice size, large space. So it has some storage in it. There is a closet over here. What used to be a toy closet is now a sample closet that will never be this clean again. So we're able to store all of our materials like in this space. So when we're here working, my team will sit at our game table, and that is their desk, and my desk is back in this corner, and we're able to pull what we need for our people. Another thing I'd like to point out in this space is that I did not want to do like a traditional media cabinet underneath the TV. The Antiques and Garden show that comes to Nashville every year, I love the show. I love the speakers that they bring in and all the vendors from all over the country. So I like to support the show. So when we were there one year, I found this Kittinger table. I thought it was perfect to go underneath the TV and can really also be used for dining when we need overflow at like an Easter, Thanksgiving, holiday meal type thing. A lot of times we'll fully seat 8 at the dining table, then I'll set another table up in the living room, move the cocktail table out, and have another dining space. And I probably have enough random chairs that I don't even have to rent any. I've had these chairs for years. They're Lee Industries. I think Bobby McAlpin, his collection, the Harside chair, they're so comfortable. I have had them recovered in this like really pretty kind of rusty velvet. I've also had this beautiful wing chair for a long time, and I love the shape of it so much. I fell in love with this Oscar de la Renta fabric and asked my slipcover friend to make the slipcover challenge of the century with this baby. And she did such a beautiful job in lining the band up with how it rolled over the chair. So she did it, and she's so dear, but she's no longer doing slipcovers because this about did her in, which is hilarious. I wanted to do opposite in this room. I want it to be super comfy and inviting. So I did a really deep, comfy sofa that is 96 inches long. So we can fit 5 people across like totally fine and have often. I also found this beautiful table from Jason Arnold, another local designer that I love his work. This is the spot where I'll come and have coffee and bring my planner and such. So I like a really big table to balance the size of the sofa and the size of this chair. This coffee table is hickory chair. I love that the wicker introduces another texture in here, and I think wicker just takes the edge off and makes everything feel more casual, and has an ease to it. This back part of the space is where we work. I did tidy up my desk a bit for you, but this was actually built into the house when we bought the house. And crazy that I ended up working out of the house and having a home studio and able to utilize it so much. So it's typically a mess, but it functions really well. And it also houses my collection of magazines that I've been quite obsessed with for many years. And I will remember if I know it was in Southern accents and, early 2000s, and I'll have to go through everyone until I find the image that I'm trying to relay, to the client of a detail that I'm trying to explain. So I do use them, and I love them. It really has so much design history, just through my career. On this back wall, you can see where the art collecting has gotten a little out of hand. No, I love art, and you can't help when you find something that you fall in love with. So when I find those things, I will bring them home, and I just know that I can always keep this growing. I chose as well to not just do a family photo gallery wall, because we really didn't have a singular space that it was appropriate for in the house. So I did mix in my favorite family photos of my children with the art, and I had more, I guess, an artful photographer that I loved that did a lot of the capturing of them. So I think it mixes in really well. This drafting table I use all the time. I hand draw. I don't do CAD. We have girls on our team that do, but I don't want to sit behind the computer, so I like to stand and draw. And that's where all of the designs really originate, is from the drawing or the floor plan. It starts there, and then I hand it off to technology to get it implemented. Welcome to our porch space. This space is right off the kitchen, and honestly, we eat as many meals as we can out here. My work girls and I eat lunch out here anytime we can to get some vitamin D in the middle of the day, get us off our screens, and my family and I certainly eat lunch out here a lot. So I love to garden, as I had mentioned. So I started a garden that you can see right over the rail that houses vegetables and herbs and some flowers, and it's all just one big experiment, as I don't know what I'm doing and I'm really just learning as I go. But it's been great fun to have a space to just disconnect and to play in the dirt. We also have another entertaining area that is a part of the yard that is we had a little fire pit zone made. So I keep a large basket, I don't know if you noticed earlier, in the kitchen that has lots of blankets and stuff. So when it's chilly outside, everyone can grab a blanket and it doesn't slow us down from hanging outside. We just wrap up and curl up by the fire. As I mentioned, that we really love to live outside and enjoy the trees that this area gives us. So we created a little entertainment zone here, which holds our fire pit and is a nice hangout, and the teenagers absolutely love utilizing this space too. And then I'll walk you down the path to show you where I've placed my our only sunspot. I worked with a landscape architect, Sam Himmelhaver, out of Dallas, who's actually Annie's brother, helped me come up and do the space planning for this outdoor space. So we have a 15 by 15 pad here that houses our fire pit. We then did the walkway with the big 36-inch pavers, and at the other end we have another 15 and 15 pad that houses my raised vegetable beds that have grown tomatoes and are currently housing watermelon and cantaloupe. The fennel is doing great, tomatoes are taking off, so it's all just one big experiment. But maybe next year I'll do more cut flowers so I can give them to my friends. I've loved design since I was a little girl. I was fortunate enough, my parents both also love design. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, which I think is a really rich, history-filled city that has really great taste, honestly. So I was lucky enough to grow up in that, and my mom would take me, to the Peabody Hotel and to the Pink Palace Museum. So I was exposed to just some really beautiful things. So I always had a love for home. My parents were big entertainers. I have a huge family, so home is where we did our, all of our entertaining. So I've always loved home. I've always loved beautiful things. And then when I got to college, I went towards the business degree for some reason. And then halfway through, I called my dad and said, I made a mistake. I really need to be in design school. But it's a 5-year program at the University of Tennessee where I went to school. And he was like, absolutely, I totally support it if you want to pay for it. And I was like, well, I don't want to. So off with a business degree I go, which has served me so well doing design and running a business and being able to keep projects on track, et cetera. But after I had a sales career in a previous life before children. And then after my children were born, I stayed at home with them for a few years. When they were young, that time was so precious and valuable, and I loved every second. But I like to work, and I like to create. And so as soon as my children started going to school, I had a dear friend, Julie Couch, who's a designer here, who was just starting her business, and she needed help. And I wanted to work, so it was such a beautiful gift that we got to fill each other's needs during that time. So I say that I went to JCU, which is Julie Couch University, because I worked with her for 6 years and really learned so much of the design industry and just how it all works. And then as my children aged and got old enough, I really needed to, decided to go out on my own to meet their schedule. The design business has really grown with me as my children have aged, and I've been able to do more with it. And I just think it's such a gift and honor to be able to help families create home, and that's what we do. Welcome to the entry. It's small, it's quaint, but it's beautiful thanks to this wall covering from Waterhouse wall coverings. They are all historic patterns. And so this is nasturtium, which I love, and it doesn't do very well in my yard, so I'm very glad that I get it in the stairwell every day. A little tip that I found just to be something to add personality and interest to a home is to pick a really yummy color and paint the back of your front door. So this may be the third color I've had over 18 years, but when you're tired of something and just need a new bolt of energy, this is a great way to do it. This is Fair and Ball Bringle, and I think it's so beautiful. Another thing I wanted to point out is that this is a narrow space, and I actually had a table that fit perfectly, but it was very ugly. I'll give you a little sneak peek, but when you have a really ugly table that is the perfect size, a slipcover is a great way to make the table work, but yet still be pretty. This house, being from the 1980s, does not have a traditional mudroom. So I've used part of the laundry to hold, kids' backpacks or shoes or what have you, but we actually use the coat rack all of the time. It keeps, the dog's leash, because she wants to go out a lot to check out her dog friends in the neighborhood. So we walk her a lot, and whoever is here, their coat and purse. It's nice to have a place for your guests to also hang their stuff so they don't feel like they're imposing anywhere. We kept all of the original millwork in here with the really pretty chair rail and dental molding. I tried to add that tension of introducing a little something modern in this pendant from Celery Kimball, her line with our tears. I don't think they make it anymore, but I sure am glad I have one. And then I introduced some more modern art from an artist friend of mine, Shelby Foldy, does these really beautiful watercolor and acrylic mixes that I just love how airy it is. Welcome to my husband's office. So you can definitely recognize like the original paneling is in here from when the house was built in 1980. When we purchased the house in 2007, you know, like painted wood was happening everywhere. And I was tempted to paint it, but my husband really did not want to. And he loves that I can say he was right. I'm so glad that we kept the original paneling. I think every house needs like to have one cozy moment, I think. And so leaning into the paneling, I just went dark ceilings and darker walls. And I think in doing so, it really does draw your eye outside, which is like one of my favorite things, that this window can look over the garden. And the desk that he's working on is also another, it's a family piece that my grandfather, cuckoo clock, that my grandfather had refinished for my mom. So I grew up with this piece of my house, and I've loved it ever since. So I'm so glad that we had like a perfect little bay for it. The built-in bookcases in the fireplace were original, and I really have done nothing more than style them in 20 years since we lived here. So this is like our cozy spot in the winter. I love a snow day where we can like all cozy up by the fire. I've even brought a game table in here and had it be like the puzzle spot during a snowstorm, which is so great. These chairs are so fabulous. I love them. They're so comfortable without being bulky. It was when Thomas O'Brien had his collection with hickory chair, and I'm lucky enough to have some. I believe he still makes a version of this with his line for Century, but they are so comfortable without being like bulky in fabric, since we're right by the fireplace. I will pull them out, you know, obviously when my husband is accessing the fire, but the leather just makes it really durable, and they're really comfortable without being like too big. This piece has also probably lived here maybe the whole time that we've been here. It's a nice spot, yeah, for our friends to like make a cocktail, so it is used. That's probably why all the men flock to this space. The art I love so much. This is another piece by my artist friend Jennifer Gibbs, who did the landscape that was in our dining room. Her range is just so great. She really can do so many things. So this is an etch that she did of some leaves, but she put it on this like gorgeous paper that she pigmented with Farrow ball paint. So no wonder her colors are so amazing. But she's so talented, and I just love the charcoal and the form of the leaves. I think are so pretty. Another piece of art I'd like to point out that is a way that I was trying to add some modernity to this very traditional masculine space is to do this deer print like framed in acrylic. I think gives us a graphic kind of modern moment mixed with like, you know, all of the old schoolness of this room. I think that tension makes it a little more interesting. I did do the same color on the wall and the ceiling here because I wanted this to be like just really dark and moody, and I wanted those windows to be what draws your eye. So this is Sherwin-Williams Porpoise, I believe, and I've had it for a long time. It's just a neutral, looks good. So our powder room that's on the main floor is unique because it also doubles as our guest bathroom when we are hosting family or friends from out of town. So I wanted it to not feel so much like a regular bathroom, so I did a very tall drapery situation to cover the shower, which I think is pretty and works well. And what else? I just added a little tape trim to our little lampshades to add a little detail, and I wrapped the whole thing in grass cloth. Since it doesn't get natural light, I think lean in, and since this is no one's everyday shower, we don't have to worry about the steam as much getting the grass cloth off the walls. So it's worked well. I've had it for a really long time. Welcome to the guest room. I wanted this to be just like a very comfortable little place for our friends and family to come stay with us. The chandelier in here is actually was in Kenneth's grandmother's home, my husband's grandmother's home, and the shades were the original color. I left them exactly as they were. I did have the rest of it sprayed to freshen it up because it had just grown dingy over the years, but I love that that was really kind of the start to like the color scheme in here. I then found the Schumacher little star wallpaper that I thought would add a little cheer on the ceiling. This room was originally a neutral color and the star wallpaper looked great, but when I was in the mood for a little more cheer, I painted her pink. It's Farrow & Ball's pink ground, and I think she just has a nice warm glow and people feel pretty and relaxed and cozy in here. This is the bed that we had when we first got married, and I think if you buy things that you love, then you'll have them for a very long time, and I think it's evident through here. It's not a big space, so a queen bed is perfectly appropriate. I also wanted to show y'all this pair of nightstands has been in my daughter's room, in my bedroom, and now in our guest bedroom. So buying a great pair of nightstands, a great pair of chairs can live in so many different ways in your homes. This was my first big girl real art purchase by an artist that I absolutely adore named Christina Baker. I've had this for years, and it is so interesting that like the color palette that's reflected here is still colorations that I love. So I think I've remained consistent, I guess. But again, this is lived like in the living room, the family room, and the dining room, in so many spaces in our house, but it's currently residing here, and I think she looks lovely. The one or two must-have things, I think, for a guest bedroom is privacy on your windows. So I did blackout lined Roman shades so they can get good night's sleep and our outdoor lighting is not affecting them. Another thing is just like great bedside tables and lamps so they can have a place to like put their phone or their water or chapstick, what have you. I just want to make it really comfortable. I also like having a little random chair in most guest bedrooms. We don't have like a ton of space, but it's nice for them to be able to throw their clothes or maybe their bag. Now I'll take y'all upstairs so you can see our bedrooms. So for this room, this is the primary bedroom where my husband and I sleep. It faces a direction that does not get a ton of natural light. In fact, it's always pretty dark, which makes for a lovely bedroom because it's good sleeping with the sun not coming in. But I think when you don't get a ton of natural light, lean into it and go dark. So I chose to paint this room Sherwin-Williams iron ore, which is almost like a black charcoal color, but it honestly has like a little softness to it when it's tempered with all of the white and blue. The first thing that I decided upon after we committed to going really dark was doing this bed by Highland House in a Schumacher fabric. And again, you can see my love for pattern is evident through the fabric, and I've loved the Biscuit Home, these Euroshams forever, so I thought that would be like the perfect little floral touch to make it true to myself. And one design challenge that we had in here is that we couldn't change the layout of where our closet was located. So it is the door directly across from the entry door that you saw. So I decided to paint it all the wall color. So I'm just camouflaging that visual stop that if it was painted in trim color would be really ill-placed. So design trick. The nightstands are hickory chair, West Paces, I believe, by Suzanne Kassler. I think they just have a beautiful form, and I love having an open shelf to throw all of my magazines and books that I'm currently working on, plus drawer for the chapsticks and such. I found some vintage lamps that I loved the scale of them, and used those to fill in like the dormers over here. We have a generous sized closet, so I really did not need drawer space. I considered building in drawers, but instead I just used this really interesting acrylic plinth with a vessel on it to just be almost an art moment within the dormer versus like, since I didn't really need it for the functional portion of it. This is the antique piece that's in here. This was actually in my bedroom growing up and basically stores like memory type things. Which is nice, and I think it fills the space. Okay, so this is my children's bathroom, and they share a bathroom, and I think sharing and waiting produces character and is good for them. It was like the tub shower combo, but neither one of them wanted a shower curtain, which I get. So when we renovated it, we made a standing shower. So it's not very wide. I didn't want to have two different floor materials since it is a tight space, so I just continued the same little career, I believe, mosaic in both of those spaces. And then I added a wood wainscoting in here because I really wanted to do this waterworks faucet that comes out from the wall. I think it's like better for washing your face, honestly, you have a bigger sink bowl and such. So I chose to do this wainscoting to protect the walls from that. And then I fell in love with this Pierre Fray paper, so I had to have it in here. And my son didn't even notice that it was a floral on his wall. So he does not care, but we love it. And you can see it from the entry, a little glimpse of it. So I think it suits the house's personality. And also on the sconces, one other thing I'll point out here, we did simple brass sconces, but instead of doing shades, because we wanted to get the natural light, I chose to do those porcelain tala bulbs again. So it softens the light, but you still get a full amount. So this is my teenage daughter's room, who may be my hardest client yet. It's always so funny. You would think she would trust that I'm a designer and that I can make a space that's reflective of her, but she very much wants to be involved. So maybe we have a budding designer on our hands. So we decided to do an upholstered headboard in here, and I'd added like a little contrast welt that I think the shape is really pretty, so the welt just helps like highlight that shape. And she wanted to do something modern, so we did these campaign chests that have great storage for all of her stuff. Then we added these like little fermoir shades to very simple rattan lamp to just add like some more pattern, and it's an opportunity to introduce like the pink color again. I love cotton rugs in bedrooms because you typically have shed your shoes by the time you reach the bedroom. I love the affordability of them, and I feel like they feel like Maine cottagey in a way, and they're reversible. So cotton rugs for bedrooms, a great way to save and still be really comfortable. This chest is actually their changing table from the nursery with both of my children. And it's so classic that I never got rid of it. We just gave her a coat of paint and decided to give her pink drawers to just add like a fun little detail. This is a print from an artist that like I love. Her name is Emily Leonard, and I think David Lusk Gallery here in Nashville represents her work. But I've like admired her work for so long, and I was following her and saw that she was doing a limited edition print sale. So anytime I see something like that from an artist I love, I always take advantage of it. And so that ended up living in Maggie's room. We found this vintage Baker desk, which I think is so fabulous and gives us something old and something wood in here. It needs a little wood to ground the space, but she uses it as her vanity and dressing table. For the art over the bed, since the bed has such like a pretty feminine shape, I wanted to take advantage of that. So we have found like vintage plates. Some actually I think are like from different grandmothers, but when she was a little girl over her crib, I had vintage plates. So this was I was thrilled when she wanted to, or was open to bringing that idea back as a teenager. But I think it does follow the shape and just introduces a girly like little pattern. So this is my son's room, which is like the tiniest room in our house. And I don't know if you remember me saying that we have lived in this house like their whole life. So when we first moved in, I put my son in the larger bedroom. A few months after we moved in, I discovered I was pregnant, so I thought this would be like the perfect nursery. So this was her room up until probably 2 years ago, when girls just have so much stuff. And he is now in college, so he was like hardly ever spend any time in his room, and she spent a ton of time in her room. Anyway, she offered to pay her brother $200 to switch rooms, and he agreed to it. And whatever, I'm fine with that. but I can't believe he did it because that room is so much bigger. But anyway, it was a great swap. So when we made this switch, trying to fit all of his stuff in this little space, I decided to do a full-size bed since the room is so small, and do generous size nightstands so we could just maximize like all of the storage in those. And instead of the opposite of what most people think, in a tiny space they want to put tiny furniture, but I think the opposite is true. I think if you have like a good scale, then it almost makes the room appear larger than it is. And I also think in here I chose to do this like another really dark saturated color, which really does draw your eye to the window and draws us outside. And I think it's so masculine. And obviously I have an outdoorsman, a fisherman on my hands, so I think it reflects his personality as well. And it is only this clean because he's in college. Home means to me a safe place, a delightful place, a place filled with beauty that we can love our people in and welcome people in, and hopefully they feel that love and beauty that we want by having them in our home.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.